Year 5, come at once if it's convenient. And if it's not convenient, come all the same. You see, but you don't observe. It's elementary, my dear Watson. Now, have I gone mad? Some might say that I have, but actually today's learning we are going to be finding out about the greatest detective of them all. Have you guessed who yet? Some of those things I said were quotes directly from him. No? Have another go if I give you this clue. I am, of course, Sherlock Holmes. That's right. He is a fictional, I know, it's sad, but he's a fictional character from a selection of books. But who wrote those books? Who created this amazing character of Sherlock Holmes? And what era was it set in? I'll give you a clue. It's linked to our learning from Monday and Tuesday. Okay, did you guess or perhaps already know? Yeah, the author was Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. He created Sherlock Holmes and of course his trusted friend Dr. Watson. And it was written and set in Victorian times. Now, as we've been learning, the Victorians had this fascination with scandalous and unusual crimes, and they loved to read all about it. And Sherlock Holmes was this character who was very intelligent, very observational, and he was able to make deductions from the smallest of clues. He didn't work for the police, but he helped the police solve some very complex cases which had baffled them, purely because he was able to observe things in a much more detailed way. Now, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle writes his stories about Sherlock Holmes in such detail that as a reader we're just drawn in and we can just imagine. He describes all manner of things and we can just visualize that as if we were there and seeing it for ourselves. It makes the writing become real and it makes it come alive. Now, wouldn't it be great if we could make our writing be like that? Yeah. So today we're going to have a go. We're going to look at how Sir Arthur Conan Doyle uses the detail and the description in his writing to make it come alive, to make it be more real. We're then going to have a go at writing something in as much detail as perhaps Sherlock Holmes would observe things. And we're going to then build on our skills from yesterday, continue to edit and improve our writing. That's such an important stage of our writing. It can transform our writing from something that's quite average to something that is much greater depth. So let's have a look at a piece of writing from Sir Conan Doyle's books. Okay, Year 5, you're now Sherlock Holmes and you're facing this man for the first time and you're going to make some very close observations. Notice all the details about him and what do they tell you about this person. Pick up on what he's wearing, what he looks, how he talks, how he holds himself. Now, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle writes all of this detail for us to show how Sherlock Holmes observes with the smallest detail, attention to detail. So we're going to do the same. Let's read and let's find out what this person is like. It says, he was a large man with rounded shoulders, a massive head and a broad, intelligent face, sloping down to a pointed beard of grizzled brown. I wonder what grizzled means. He had a touch of red in the nose and the cheeks, with a slight tremor in his extended hand. His rusty black frock coat, can't quite picture a frock coat, what that might be, was buttoned right up in front, with the collar turned up, and his lank wrists protruded from his sleeves without the sign of a cuff or shirt. He spoke in a slow staccato, let's come back to that word, staccato fashion, choosing his words with care, and gave the impression generally of a man of learning and letters who has had the ill usage at the hands of fortune. Okay, my Sherlock Holmes, what do you deduce about this person? What is he like? What's it telling us that he is? Have a think. Now, the first bit, he's a large man, I can imagine that, with rounded shoulders, a massive head, and a broad, intelligent face. Well, that with the massive head and the clue later on, a man of learning and letters. Now, I know in the Victorian times that if you had a big head, they thought you were very intelligent. So this person with a big, massive head, an intelligent looking face, and a man of learning, he was educated and letters. He was able to read and to write. So he was a clever man. His face was sloping down to a pointed beard of grizzled brown. We'll have a look at grizzled. Wonder what that might mean. He has a touch of red in the nose and cheeks, with a slight tremor in his extended hand. So his hand is out, about to shake our hand, but it's shaking. I wonder why it's shaking. Is it shaking because he's nervous or anxious? It doesn't actually tell us, but it does give us clues. That show don't tell that we sometimes tell you to do in your writing. Okay, he's trembling, maybe because he's anxious, he's worried something has happened to him and he's now come to us to help him. His rusty black frock coat was buttoned right up in front with the collar turned up, and his lank wrist protruded from his sleeves without the sign of a cuff or shirt. So rusty black, you think of rust and you think of old metal. In this case, they're using it to describe an old coat, some kind of coat. Let's look at frock coat later. And it was buttoned right up with the collar turned up, so he was obviously hiding away. His lank wrists, I wonder what the word lank, we can look at that a bit more in detail, without the sign of a cuff or a shirt. So his coat is obviously the main item of clothing that he's got on. Something has happened to this rather intelligent man. He's shaking, he's got a bit of he's obviously worried and anxious, his red in his nose, he has got his collar turned up, he's hiding. Something awful has happened to this man and he's obviously not feeling very good. He spoke in a slow staccato fashion. This again highlights the fact he's worried and trembling. Staccato we'll look at a little bit more in a bit. He's choosing his words with care. So he's thinking carefully about what he's got to say. He's not just blurting anything out. Now, who has ill usage at the hands of fortune? Now, the hands of fortune, those often describe the good things that happen to us. But he has had ill usage at the hands of fortune. So there's a few more things that we need to unpick, but generally here you can see how Sir Arthur Conan Doyle has gone into great detail about this man, not just what he looks like, what he's wearing, but he gives us those show not tells of what this person is like and what this person is going through. Okay, so before we move any further forward, let's find out what some of those words might mean. So your first task, I would like you to find definitions for those words that we found in our reading text just now. So the word lank, ill usage, frock coat, cuff, staccatoed and grizzled. Pause the video now and have a look for those definitions of those words. Off you go. We've got lank, which means slender and thin. Ill usage means unfair or unkind treatment. A frock coat, it was a formal man's coat. Knee length. A cuff is the end part of a sleeve where the material is turned back. Staccato means disjointed, short or broken speech, but it also applies to music as well, so you can play very short musical notes. And grizzled, it means streaked with grey, so a brown beard or a black beard streaked with some grey in it. You might say that my hair is looking rather grizzled at the moment. Okay, so your next task is I would like you to write these words in a sentence. I want you to build up your vocabulary and get to know and extend your vocabulary. So I'd like you to take each one of these words now and write them in a sentence. So rather like mine, I have put, the old man peered from beneath his peaked hat, his face framed with a grizzled brown beard. So I'd like you to have a go at writing a sentence now. Pause the video, and when you have done that, come back. Off you go. So here's your main task for today. You're going to write a detailed description of a person. You're going to edit it and then publish it. Now, when I say detailed, I mean Sherlock Holmes, Arthur Conan Doyle style of writing, detailed. You are now Sherlock Holmes with your Sherlock Holmes hat on, and I'd like you to notice everything about this character and maybe make a few deductions, a few inferences about that character as well and how they're feeling. Remember some of those show, don't tell. Show it through the trembling hands, for example, in the piece that we looked at earlier. Now, take a look at this person here and look at all the details. Make those close observations about him. Have a little go at writing a few notes about this person on a piece of paper now. You might want to pause the video while you do that and then come back. Off you go. Okay, let's have a look at some of the things that I put down. Just a few notes. So he's stooped over, so he's bent, and walks with the aid of a stick. He's got a bag slung across his body, tattered leather shoes, a grizzled brown beard, and small bead-like eyes with a large crooked nose. Now you can see I'm trying to use some new vocabulary that I've learned today, so I've put in the word grizzled. I don't know if they're made of leather, but I am a writer and I can add and create things however I want, and I want them to be leather, more than likely to be, and they are definitely whatever tattered. Now hopefully you've got a few things down like that too, and let's see now about putting that together into a first piece of writing. It's my writing of the description of that gentleman. It's my first draft, remember. As I looked up from my newspaper, I noticed a man walking towards me. He had a worn rag-like frock coat that was the colour of grey steel. He had a green canvas bag hung across his body. He had a green bent hat. His face was friendly, although mostly framed with a grizzled beard. I want to reuse some words that I've learnt today. His nose, which was crooked, so a relative clause, was large and ended with a point. Underneath two bushy eyebrows, so my frontal adverbial, were small black eyes like pinpricks, so a simile, upon the face, yet shined in a kindly manner. Okay, so that's my first draft, but I need to go through that and edit it because I know for one, I can definitely add in some more of those Year 5 expectations. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that now and come back to you. Okay, so I have gone through and edited my writing. I've put it in blue so you can see. I have done it on the computer, but if you do it on as we do in school, and you write it out, it's a really good idea to number your edits like we do in school and list your new ideas underneath. I've done it on the computer purely for quickness for this video today. So let's go through, and hopefully you'll be able to see that I have added some of those Year 5 expectations. So I've changed the word looked to peered, a much more ambitious word there. As I peered up from my morning, so again, it's a more detailed information. So in my morning newspaper, I noticed a gentleman walking slowly and cautiously towards me. So I added the word slowly and the word cautiously, those adverbs, to give you a bit of a show of how that person might be feeling. Okay, I continue that by using the word hesitating. So he walked slowly and cautiously towards me, hesitating slightly as he met my gaze. So I've added that extra clause there and joined it with a comma rather than to use too many ands. Now, we have to be careful with character descriptions that they don't just become a list. He has this, he has that, he was this, and he thinks that. Okay, if we keep making it like a list, our writing can appear very dull. So I've kept one in. He had a worn rag-like frock coat, and I already had my relative clause, which was the colour of grey steel. Okay, but I'm going to be aware now that I don't want to keep starting all my sentences with he has, because that would be more like a list. So let's go back to this sentence. So I've got my relative clause in here, which was the colour of grey steel. And now I'm going to add that detail that we want to see and expect for Sherlock Holmes to have spotted. It was buttoned closed with 3 silver buttons, and the hem was unravelling over his knees. Okay, now here we go. Instead of he has again, I'm going to use a frontal adverbial, prepositional one. So across his body, a green canvas bag hung. And I'm going to add a bit more information there and a bit more clues about why this gentleman might be walking towards me in the first place. I wondered if it contained the mysterious object I had heard so much about and desperately wanted to see. So all in the same sentence, joined together with a comma. Again, instead of using he has, I've used a prepositional adverb. So beneath here, a sage, bit more detail, what type of green was it? A sage green bent hat, which was, again, relative clause, which was crumpled and had a bent rim. And underneath that was a friendly face, mostly framed with a grizzled beard. Again, that up-leveled vocabulary that I've learned today. So you can see, and it still needs more work. Right, so it's over to you. I have put 3 pictures here of 3 different people who I thought looked rather mysterious and intriguing. You may choose one of these people. Or indeed you may choose a person of your own choice, and I'd like you to write your detailed description of your character. Now I try and include some of this list of expectations here that you can see, and the ones that we've discussed already in this video. I can't wait to see your descriptions, Year 5, and please send them via the Year 5 email. I look forward to reading them.